Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about different types of modeling techniques in Maya. And modeling is one of the most fundamental abilities that a beginner CG artist or computer graphics artist can have. And I'm going to show you some of the most common tools and uh, functions that will help you create really nice models. We are going to start simply by exploring the different types of modeling we can create. And to create something, we will go to the Create screen. Here you will find different types of primitives. Primitives are essentially just mean shapes. Now, there are different types of material, so to speak, to create in. Just like in the real world, we would have wood or metal, and those are different types. We would have to use different tools to kind of shape those two materials if, for instance, we were creating a table. So here you'll see we have Nurbs primitives, we have Polygon primitives, we have volume primitives. Now, these are the three main primitive types that you can use in Maya. This semester, we will be focusing on polygon primitives first and foremost, but I do want to teach you a little bit about Nurbs as well. Volume primitives tend to be used in our case for maybe some special effects or things like that. We're not going to really get into volume primitives right now. So let's start with Nurbs and polygons. Nurbs primitives means non-uniform rational B-splines. They're based off of curves, much like you would find in Adobe Illustrator. Nurbs primitives, let's go ahead and start by creating a Nurbs sphere. Now, this little box next to this sphere, and you'll notice this all throughout Maya here. You can see we have the curve tool here and things. There's little boxes. These are your option boxes. So when I open that up, it brings up my tool options. I'm going to reset that, and I'm going to go back to create Nurbs primitives and hit the sphere function. Now, it says drag on grid. So I'm going to hold the shift key and drag this on the grid. Now that I've done that, what I can do from here is I want to create a polygon primitive next to it. So I'm going to go down to Polygon Primitives, Sphere, and I also have the option box, which I can easily reset. I'm going to just go and drag a sphere now. Now, these are two different types of material. Now, at first glance, when we look at them, when we rotate using our command key and our right mouse button, you'll notice they look a lot alike. So I'm going to go ahead and I need to rename these. And I can rename things in a slew of different ways. I have my shape nodes in my attribute editor. If your channel box is up, you can simply double click on the name and rename it. So we can call this Nurb Sphere. There we go. I can't spell today. There we go. We can rename this one to Polysphere or Polygon Sphere. There we go. Looks good. You guys will realize really quickly I am a horrible speller. All right. There's other places I can rename these too. One of which is really good and useful for the beginning modeler. It's in this panel layout section of your timeline. You can find this two-panel layout, and that will by default open up something called the outliner, which is basically like almost like a pseudo layers panel for Maya here. And I can double click and name things in here, and I can select things as well. To get rid of that, I just highlight this screen here. I click once, hit my space bar, and it goes back to where I need to go. All right, now that I have these selected, I'm going to turn my wireframe unshaded on so we can see some of the differences. Again, from surface-wise, they're both the same color gray. It's a Lambert material, which is the color or the paint that is on this sphere. But you can notice there's some differences in their wireframe or their line work. This wireframe, think of it much like chicken wire. And the way I describe people, Nurbs versus polygons, is I do a little analogy like this. What I'll say is the Nurbs is like when we were kids and we would use chicken wire and we would wrap chicken wire around a balloon. We would create a surface around the balloon using wet paper and paper mache, and then pop the inner balloon and get a shell, which is a hollow shell of paper, basically. And that is what I would describe a Nurb as. A polygon is a lot more like clay or wood or a more solid surface. Though both of them, if we zoom in to the world inside of them, you can see both of them are absolutely hollow. But in the idea of surfaces versus polygon materials, polygons are, in our mind, a little more solid than Nurbs. Nurbs are great for organic items and whatnot. Now, these elements, and let's move these closer together here, each of these spheres have their own unique elements to them. And to access those elements, we have a variety of ways to do that. The easiest way is to simply highlight the material in object mode, right-click, and I hold my right mouse button down, and I'll get a lot of different options, one of which is object mode, which we are currently in. The other is edge mode, which allows us to start to highlight all these edges. Vertex mode is another popular one, and face mode is a popular one. Allow us to highlight the face. Now, you may have noticed I've skipped over vertex face and UV and also multi mode. These tend to not be used as much. Multi is new. Multi will kind of allow us to hover over anything with the, you can even see with the ability to even grab a vertice. So I don't suggest that for beginners because a lot of problems can arise. Edge, vertex, base, and object mode are your big four that you want to select. Now that is with a polygon. Remember, this is our polygon ball. With our Nurb, if I right click, you'll notice we have a different set of selection points. We have isoparms, which are non-movable, selectable, basically curves. We have those vertex pieces, which you can see that I have my move tool. It allows me to kind of move things out and about. And we have our surface points, which again aren't movable via any of our certain tools here. We would have to go up into our bowels of menus to find those. So what's the difference mainly between these two as from a modeling standpoint? The first thing we're going to do, and I'm hoping you're following along with me, is obviously we want to create one Nurb sphere and we want to create one Polygon sphere for a primitive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to hold my right mouse button down. I'm holding it down here. I can go anywhere I want and go to vertex. I'm going to grab a specific vertex or vertice and I'm going to pull it out. We're going to get to this side view here. And I'm going to click away and go back to object mode. And what you can see, if I turn this off, it's pretty sharp. You can see the Polygon Primitive has a pretty sharp kind of appearance to it. Let's do the same here and let's use a a control vertex or a CV. And let's pull this out here. Right click, go back to object mode. Now, the main difference between polygons over here and Nurb surfaces is you can see the smoothness that they work with. There is a lot more we can do with curves for both of these, but for beginning modelers, this is really a huge difference in selling point. What I want to do is I want to really just focus. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. I want to really focus on the polygon material. This polygon material is going to be what we're going to use for the majority of the semester for our modeling. So I just went ahead and poorly, you can see I need to kind of nudge that a little bit more inward there. There we go. Put that back together. All right, now that I have this poly material, let's explore all the different types of polygon materials in the Polygon family. We're going to go to create. We've created the sphere. We're going to create the cube, and I'm going to drag a box out and pull it up. Now, let me hit delete there real quick. If I go to Polygon Cube and I have my tool here and I hold Shift, it will actually drag a perfect square already out, which is really nice. So that's our cube right there. What else do we have here? Now, at any point, you can actually make these fly-off menus by clicking. They don't disappear. They just kind of open up. We'll do a cylinder. We'll do the same thing here, holding the Shift key. We'll do a cone. And all objects, and this is the way Maya wants you to think, are made up of these primitive shapes. They're just morphed and merged together. For instance, a table, the base of the table could be a cylinder, or it could be a cube flattened, and the legs could be different cubes put together. So we're going to go to the plane. The plane is a one-sided, you can see, kind of shape, right? One face. Let's go to the torus. Open that up a little bit. It's a donut. That's all that means. Go through here, look at some of the other ones. My mouse is pretty sensitive today. A prism. Pretty neat. You never know when you're going to need these. We have the standard pyramid. You have a pipe. Pipe's kind of nice here. Allows us to make this kind of pipe shape. And you see there's a lot of options. The helix, we've seen this in earlier videos. Great kind of tool. We have the soccer ball. And we have, last but not least, the Platonic Solid. Kind of interesting. All of these have options. So here, if I close this out, this is our Polygon family, so to speak. These are base mesh, base primitives. We can turn on all the faces on shaded. You can see what's going on there. And if you do not see these shaded, again, if you see something that looks like this, remember to hit 5 on your keyboard to do the display mode. Now, if you do not like that interactive creation, you can simply go and turn it off in the Create menu. It's same with the Exit on completion. That is totally up to you. So I'm going to close this menu. Remember, it does not hide it. It just tore it away. And I have a whole slew of things to work with. One of the most common elements to work with for a beginning CG artist is the cube. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight, marquee these, hit the delete key, and let's focus on our friend the cube here. And we're going to snap him to close to the middle here. There we go. Kind of pull him back in. All right. So I'm going to hit R for scale, and I'm going to scale him up so I can see a little bit better for you guys. And let's explore the different elements of modeling. So what we have at our disposal are a few things like we've mentioned before. If I right-click, I have the edges. If I grab an edge, I can scale that edge. I can rotate by hitting the E key. In this case, there's really not many places I can go. I can hit W to move that edge. Maybe I'm making a wall or a ramp or something like that. I can hit the Q key to give me my total selection tool and allow me to do or go back to object mode. So getting familiar with those functions are very good. Same with your Command Z. If I hit Command Z here a few times, it will bring it back. Then we go back to object mode, and we have the vertices. Vertex are where edges meet. They help form faces, so we have a lot of options there. We have the face mode. Now, your faces may look a little different than mine, and here's the reason. I like these little dots in the faces because when I'm working on the side of something and I can't barely grab this face, I like to use my Marquee Tool a lot. So to turn those on, and I suggest you turn these on when you're first starting to avoid any confusion, you're going to go to Display, and you're going to go to, or pardon me, Window, Settings and Preferences, and we're going to go to Preferences. And that's going to open this up. Now, we have a lot of options here to kind of go through, but I'm going to find the option that would really help with the settings of our scene. So axis is Y. If you ever need to change that, that's there. But if we go through each one, let's just kind of highlight through them. Might as well since we're here. You can see here are UI elements. Maya loves putting things in different places, but there's always ways to find it. We have display, like I just mentioned. We have polygons, like I just mentioned. And here it says polygon display. You can see all different options here. We can go down the list here and kind of really do it. Now I go to selection. In selection, I've decided to select faces with the center. Whole face will look something like this. Let's go back to here. That's great. It still works really well. But to be honest with you, as a beginner, if I go to try to Marquee Tool something like this bottom one, you see it selects all the faces by accident. So I'm going to go back real quick, and I'm going to navigate to my Window, Settings and Preferences, and I'm going to go to the Selection panel and choose Center Face. Now that I have that, I can easily select just that one face. There it is. It's just selected that. So that really helps me along the way. Now, with that said, what if you do select multiple faces? So let's go ahead and let's attempt to maybe select a couple here. Now, I have all these middle faces selected. If I click Shift, what you'll notice is it will take away the selection. Same if I want to add a selection, I can use the Shift key. Others you may see on other screens, they may use the Control key to take away things. that's fine as well. And this method works for many different things. Same with vertices. If I hold the Shift key, it will take away, if I have, let's say, all of these selected and I only want one, I can hold Shift and take away these items. Control on your keyboard, not Command, but Control can also do the same thing. So it's really up to you to add and subtract. Think of it a lot like Photoshop with your selection tools and the lasso tools, how you would add and subtract from a selection. All right, now that we have that underway, we're going to go ahead and explore different ways to manipulate this object, because we need to start molding it and manipulating it. The first thing we have to think about is something called topology. And topology comes from the base mesh. Now, we don't want to start with extreme detail. We want to start by just blocking out the shape of whatever we're modeling. Now, to do this, before we've done anything, when I created the cube, it created an inputs channel in my channel box. Remember, for those of you who forgot where the channel box is, it's either on the tab here or the far right tab here. If you just keep clicking, it will show up. Here you can see different depths. So if I put 5 in each one, you're going to see now we have a lot more dense of a mesh. Where this may seem appealing to you guys, what really is going on here is actually going to give you a lot more to select and also a lot more to mess up on when you're first starting. So again, you can see I've accidentally on purpose clicked and selected this one. So remember, what I would do is hold the Control key down, deselect, and then I would have those specific ones. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, don't go and model and then change these. If you want a specific mesh, do that in the beginning. I tend to keep everything default and very plain and simple. All right, now that we have this, let's explore different ways to move around these meshes. For polygons, I want to make sure that I'm in the Polygon submenu and I have the terms mesh and edit mesh that are appearing at the top of my file panel. Now I'm ready to kind of move around and start sculpting. So let's say we want to make this a little wider, or if we want to make this maybe a crate or a box. What we can do is use our faces, vertices, edges, and again, obviously multi and object mode if need be, to kind of mold this into something new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the face, and I'm going to teach you the most common polygon modeling method out there. This is one of the most common tools around. This tool is going to be found under Edit Mesh, because we want to edit the mesh, Extrude. Now, you will not see these if you are not in the Polygons menu. Now, when you click Extrude, be very careful. This is a powerful tool. What will happen, and I'm going to show you a mess up here in a second, but from the get-go, when you push it, you get this manipulator. You can see it adds a whole new row of faces, and it creates a nice attached kind of feeling. And you can see I can sculpt this downward, I can push this inward to make a box, all sorts of cool stuff. All right, and I just clicked away when I was done. Now let me show you what a lot of beginner students will do. Let's say I'm working and I'm very intently looking at maybe the actual object I'm modeling on my desk or something to that nature. I'm going to go to Edit Mesh. I'm going to go to Extrude. I hit it, and then somebody asks me something. So I click. I walk away. I move around and I say, okay, well, I help them, whatever. So I go back to face mode, and I said I need to do extrusion again, and I hit extrusion one more time. Now, what you'll notice is something kind of interesting. Do you guys see the little dots in there? That's bad. What that means is there's actually a whole new row of stuff there, and I'm going to show you by revealing that this way. Look at that. And Maya gets confused when it sees things like that. So, and you can see it even messes with the topology or the way the lines are handled. So what we need to do is be very aware of mess-ups like that. And when we're working, use Command-Z here. I'm going to go back till those are gone. We need to make sure if we do, in fact, get distracted and do something like this, maybe we pull it up or maybe we don't pull it up, make sure that you just simply select the face, hit W on your keyboard, and then move it up this way. And that will help a lot. The other thing we want to keep in mind is Maya is basically a giant calculator. It is calculating all of this space. If we look really at the grid, and you guys may have remembered this from math class, that's our Cartesian grid. We have positive values, we have negative values, and so forth. So what we want to do is make it as easy as possible for Maya to work. One of the ways we do that is focusing on the number of sides per face. Now, right now, we have two different types of faces. We have quads, which are 4 sides or faces with 4 edges, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have triangles, which currently aren't on here. So let's go ahead and make a triangle. To do this, I'm going to go to my Edit Mesh, and I'm going to do another tool called Interactive Split Tool. I'm going to click on this tool, and it gives me a little dot. And you notice I'm not clicking anything, I'm just kind of moving my mouse. Well, I want to put it right on the edge here. And then I want to put one right here, and then click right back to that original edge. When I'm done, if I hit the return key, it gives me a polygon. Now what I have here is a 3-sided face, or a tri. 1, 2, 3. You can see here. So this is a triangle, and then this face is a quad. One thing we don't want to do is end up with any more than 3 or 4 sides. So to show you this example, I'm going to do something actually the wrong way here. I'm going to put this interactive split mesh tool here. I'm going to do something like this. There we go. All right, now we have a big no-no. So we have 2 quads here, and you may be looking at this going, oh, that's still a quad. Well, let's count the edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This becomes something called an n-gon. N-gon. So what I can do is, I'm going to type it up here, n-gon. N-gons are really, really bad. They're more than 4-sided polygons. To actually fix this, what we would have to do is use our tool again and triangle these out. And this is something that you can still see a lot of game artists do. But now we have a pretty good setup. Except we got this down here too. We should fix this while we're at it. Keep everything clean. So here we're going to have to do a couple. If I hit G on my keyboard, it will give me the last tool I used. It's a great helpful hint. And basically now I have a clean model. And that is just for rendering purposes and display purposes. All right? You don't always have to go through and make things triangles, but you know, it's something to keep your eye on. N-gons are just bad news. They're going to leave you a lot of trouble later down the road. All right, now that we have this and we're really ready to go, we can start to explore how to remove some of these lines, because you may not want all of these lines here. So I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to actually grab all the lines I originally made a few seconds ago. And to delete these, you could just hit the delete key. By doing that, though, if you look really close here, let me zoom in, it actually leaves a floating vertice. That's not kind of cool. So we're going to go back, and we're going to do Edit Mesh, and then we're going to look in Mesh. So we have 2 options here, and we're going to look for Delete, and we want to remove or delete the faces. So I'm going to go through, and I always get lost here when I find it, but there should be a delete edge or vertice right here, or Command backspace, which is a cool hotkey they've given us. When I do that and I go to vertex mode, you'll see there's no vertex there. That's the clean way to delete an edge. That will take practice. This is not, I'm doing this very quickly for your sake, but you're going to have to go back and practice this a little more. Now, let's say we wanted to add a lip to whatever here is here that we're modeling. Well, I'm going to go to the Edit Tools, and I'm going to look at some of the other options. For instance, we have the Insert Edge Loop tool. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on my object, and what this is going to do is it's going to actually give us a little edge loop all the way around. That's a neat tool. Now, if you ever want to select an edge loop within your Maya model, simply go to Edge, and if I click once, it selects one edge, but if I double click, what it will actually do is select a contiguous edge. Now I can scale. I can make this maybe like a trash can or a mailbox or something like that. And I can use my other tools. It looks like I'm making something from Super Mario here, doesn't it? Like the pipe. That's cool too. So if I want to, again, grab a contiguous face, it doesn't work the same. There are methods to do this that I'll show you down the road, but holding the Shift key and rotating around works well. Edit Mesh Extrude. I hit this little circle up here to center my pivot. Watch this. I'm going to pull this in. If I'm making a pillar for some architecture or something cool like that. There we go. Do select all. And now what you see is we have a very clean model. We're starting to get some nice movement out of it. Let's go ahead and do some more extruding. Let's take this and we're going to do extrude, but we're going to do something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull these in from the left and the right. You'll see why in a second. Try to make it as square and as even as possible. Now if I just pull down, not exactly what I want, so I'm going to do another extrude or hit G on my keyboard. And I'm going to center my pivot again here and move it down. Now I can get this kind of interesting like trash bin kind of look. Okay, so maybe we're making a planter or something like that. Now the other things that we will get into are beveling and making sure edges aren't completely flat, because in reality most edges aren't as flat and nice as this. We will get into smoothing. One of the main smoothing techniques you can see is hitting the 3 key, and you'll see all of a sudden it becomes really organic like a bullet. And I'm going to hit the 1 key to go back to regular mode here. But that's basically your intro to polygon techniques. There's tons of tools we haven't even covered, but I want you guys to kind of practice and play around with this a little bit more before we get into anything advanced. One thing I will let you know, before you're done with a model, when you've done all your modeling that you need, go ahead and go to a couple of things. Go to Edit, Delete by Type, and then History. That's going to get rid of all this history, and that's going to make Maya move a little faster. If you modeled and you want to center your pivot, Modify Center Pivot is also a really nice one to kind of plop the pivot in the center. So if we were going to rotate this or animate this, it would be right in the middle. Really fun stuff. Alright guys, nothing fancy yet, but we're just learning the basic shapes of Maya here. Hopefully this one helped you get a little started in the Polygon world. We're going to learn more in the next lesson.